I'm a big YouTuber.
I literally cover court cases for a living.
I'm gonna give you my ID.
I cover the court cases for a living.
Yeah, what up, y'all? Welcome to Crown TV. I am the Crown Prince. Shout out to the Royal fam, man. We done leveled up. We putting the petty things away. Hashtag Royal fam in the comments if you hear me. If you want to donate to the channel and help us grow, you could do that through the Super Chat or the Cash App. Let's get it. What's poppin', y'all? Welcome back to Crown TV. I am the Crown Prince, if you do not know. Shout out to the Royal fam. Shout out to all the affiliates. Shout out to everybody who is watching for rocking with me. Now, the first thing you may notice is that this is not a quick hit. This is a long-form video. We on the old setup. So this is for everybody who missed the long-form videos. This would be something like a wet dream for y'all. We have not done away with these. The quick hits is just something that I thought of to get people in and out when it's possible. Today, we are talking about the multiple post-arrest statements that were made in this AR-AB case. We covered the Braz one already. Today, we are covering Dennis Harmon and Dontez Stewart. So on September 11th, 2017, Dennis Harmon made multiple statements, including oral, videotaped, and written statements. And we're going to get into that. If I could get this to work. All right. It says, motion of defendant Dennis Harmon to suppress statements. Defendant Dennis Harmon, by and through undersigned counsel, respectfully moves that this honorable court suppress the statements made by him to officers of the Philadelphia Police Department on or about 11/12/2017 in violation of Mr. Harmon's 4th, 5th, and 6th Amendment rights, including oral statements made on the 3200 block of Sydenham Street and at the police station, and video and written statements taken in a homicide interview tank. At around 6:24 p.m. on September 11, 2017, two Philadelphia police officers arrived at the 3200 block of North Sydenham Street as part of an investigation into a shooting/homicide that took place elsewhere that day. At around 6:30 p.m., two or more police officers arrived at the same location. Shortly thereafter, Mr. Harmon walked out of the 3234 North Sydenham Street, walked across the street and back, and was stopped by the police upon attempting to re-enter the house. The police directed Mr. Harmon to stay on the stoop of the house. He was then repeatedly questioned by police. The only non-police individual who came into the vicinity was chased off by the police. After approximately 45 minutes, Mr. Harmon was transported in a marked police car to the homicide division of the police department. At the homicide division, he was further held and questioned. At no time after being stopped outside of the house was Mr. Harmon free to leave. Y'all got to remember, this is the defense talking. For a total of over 5 hours outside of the Sydenham address and at the police station, Mr. Harmon was repeatedly questioned by police without being advised of his Miranda rights. During this questioning, police claimed that Mr. Harmon made various incriminating statements. On information and belief, officers will testify that he said that he lived at 3234 North Sydenham Street, that no one else lived there, that whatever might be found in the house was his, and that he had marijuana in the house. At approximately 11:50 p.m., over 5 hours after police began to question him, Miranda warnings were read to Mr. Harmon in a manner non-calculated to elicit a knowing and intelligent waiver of rights. Mr. Harmon did not make a knowing and voluntary waiver of his Fifth Amendment rights. After purporting to advise Mr. Harmon of his Miranda rights, a homicide detective questioned Mr. Harmon, eliciting incriminating statements, including many of the same statements that were elicited prior to the purported Miranda warnings. This time, it was on videotape. Mr. Harmon was held in the homicide interview tank for at least 14 hours without food or a comfortable place to rest. Several hours after the videotape questioning began, the detective brought Mr. Harmon a written summary statement, which he signed. Okay, so the lawyer is arguing here that his Miranda rights at first were not read to him and he made statements, and then after the Miranda rights were read to him, he made more statements, including statements that corroborated the statements that he made before he was read his Miranda rights. The lesson here is not to talk to the police, period. You shouldn't have your lawyer in court arguing, you filling up his time with arguing mistakes that you shouldn't have made. So when you get a statement like this knocked off in court, it feels like a win, but actually what you are doing is spinning your wheels, because this should not have to take place. So you got your lawyer in court wasting time on a statement that you shouldn't have made. Now, to my understanding, I don't want to go back. I don't want to flip through and go all the way back. But this statement, I believe, was thrown out of court. Dennis Harmon took a plea way early in this case. So now we're going to get to Dontez Stewart. And I know a lot of y'all waiting on these police statements from the excerpt that I put up. So we're going to get to that shortly. We're going to run through this real quick. On July 13, 2018, Dontez Stewart was arrested by Philadelphia homicide detectives and charged with the murder of Robert Johnson. Homicide detectives read Stewart his Miranda warnings, and Stewart requested an attorney. The interrogation was terminated upon Stewart's invocation and his right of counsel. Nevertheless, approximately 3 weeks later, and without a break in pretrial detention, Stewart was transported from the Hold Correctional Facility, CFCF, to the federal building on July 26, 2018. Despite Stewart's earlier invocation of his rights to counsel, FBI Special Agent B.J. Simpson and S.A. Simpson, Task Force Officer Greg Stevens, and Philadelphia Homicide Detective Jason Bamberski, I'm going to have to do something about these names, deliberately interrogated and elicited a statement from Stewart concerning the murder of Robert Johnson. The federal statement must now be suppressed as a violation of the Fifth Amendment. Facts. On October 14, 2017, Johnson was shot multiple times at the 4000 block of Benner Street. Johnson was transported to Area Hospital, where he died as a result of his wounds. 3 weeks later, on November 3, 2017, Stewart was arrested with a 9mm handgun at 2139 Granite Street. As a result, Stewart was charged with violations of the Uniform Firearms Act and retained Edward Meehan to represent him. On December 4th, 2018, Meehan withdrew from Stewart's case, and Lee Mandel was appointed to represent Stewart on a VUFA case. We're skipping down to this last sentence. It says, subsequent ballistics testing on the bullets were removed from Johnson's body, as well as the fired cartridge casings at the crime scenes. Revealed that the handgun in Stewart's possession was the same gun used to kill Johnson. After conducting an investigation, police homicide detectives arrested Stewart on July 3rd, 2018, and charged him with the murder of Robert Johnson. Bamberski, who was one of the detectives assigned to the state murder case, at the time of his arrest on a state murder case, Stewart was Mirandized, requested an attorney, and refused to give a statement. The interrogation was then terminated. On July 16, 2018, Lee Mandel, Esquire, was appointed to represent Stewart on the murder case. We're going to skip over the parentheses. Both the VUFA case and the state murder case have been consolidated for a trial scheduled on September 16, 2019 in the Philadelphia Court of Common Pleas. The discovery in the state murder case revealed that a cooperating witness told Philadelphia police that Abdul West ordered Stewart to kill Johnson to further the ends of the drug trafficking organization charged in the instant case. On July 24, 2018, the Honorable Richard A. United States Magistrate Judge for the Eastern District of Pennsylvania, signed an arrest warrant charging Stewart in the instant case. On July 26, 2018, Stewart was transported from CFCF to the federal building on 600 Arch Street. Despite the fact that Stewart had previously refused to give a statement, requested an attorney when read his Miranda rights, and subsequently appointed Mr. Mandel in the state murder case, S.A. Simpson, T.F.O. Stewart, and Ph.D. Bamberski proceeded to Mirandize Stewart and question him regarding the underlying facts in the state murder case. Stewart then waived his Miranda warnings and made numerous incriminating statements during the subsequent federal statement. The federal statement must now be suppressed. This is the defense talking again, y'all. The federal statement extracted from Stewart must be excluded as a violation of the Fifth Amendment. Now, it goes into all the laws. If y'all want all of this mumbo jumbo, y'all could go get the paperwork. It'll be in the band app. It'll be on the Patreon for free. Now, this is the second. This is the supplemental in support of the first statement, and this is where those police officer statements come in. It says the government and Dontez Stewart stipulated to the facts as the set forth in defendant's motion to suppress statement. The facts were supplemented by the testimony from FBI agent William Becker at the suppression hearing held on July 18, 2018. At the hearing, the court granted Stewart's request to raise the additional issue of whether or not his statement was a voluntary one. Furthermore, the court asked the government and Stewart to address the question of whether or not the court could grant Stewart's motion in part and deny in part. Specifically, the court requested that the parties address whether or not the court could suppress all portions of Stewart's statement relating to the murder of Robert Johnson, yet still admit other portions of Stewart's statement that addressed drug-related activity. The supplemental motion now addresses both of these issues. This is, again, the defense talking. Analysis. Once Stewart invoked his Fifth Amendment right to counsel, law enforcement agents were not permitted to question Stewart again about any matter without a break in Miranda custody, despite any subsequent Miranda waiver. Now, again, it goes into the law, and this is an important part that I want to read to y'all, just so y'all know for future reference if you should find yourself in one of these instances. It says, as a matter of law, the presumption raised by a suspect's request for counsel that he considers himself unable to deal with the pressures of custodial interrogation without legal assistance does not disappear simply because the police have approached the suspect, still in custody, still without counsel about a separate investigation. So what they are saying here is that once you ask for a lawyer, no matter how long after the fact they come and talk to you, that still stands. You already told them that you feel uncomfortable talking to the police without a lawyer. Therefore, they are required anytime they talk to you after that to make sure that you have a lawyer present. Now we're going to get to these police statements. All right, it says here Stewart was in constant pretrial detention from the moment he invoked his Fifth Amendment right to counsel on July 3rd, 2018 until the federal statement on July 26, 2018. Despite the fact his interrogators knew he had invoked his Fifth Amendment right to counsel, they nevertheless badgered him into making a statement. Listen, y'all, the police should never be able to badger you into making a statement. It says his interrogators made it perfectly clear that his fate was dependent upon his cooperation. Indeed, the following are just some of the statements Stewart's interrogators made that demonstrated that Stewart knew perfectly well that his future could depend upon giving a statement. Okay, so now we're going to get into these police statements, and I want y'all to be aware that this is written like somebody is talking, so there's double words and all that stuff. I'm going to try to get through it as best as I can. It says, this is one officer talking. It says, in hopes that if you want to cooperate and talk and help yourself out, you won't get arrested for the other stuff. You see what I'm saying? And if you get arrested for everything, you're sitting on everything that we have the flexibility of what we actually arrest you with. And you'll be in the federal system. So we'll have a little more influence on what happens. Another officer chimes in. He says, influence over everything, Taz, because what's the ultimate goal here is you're a small piece of a puzzle. And a bigger picture is the whole puzzle, okay? So what's going to happen is that at some point, hopefully you're going to think about yourself and do what's right for you. Because as you clearly see, as you told us, once you got in the F, which is the correctional facility, you got written off the books. Nobody paying your attorney fees. Nobody's putting up money on your books. Nobody's coming up and, making things right. Another officer says, nobody's taking care of your old lady and your kid. Another officer says, this is where Dontez Stewart chimes in and says, I don't care about that stuff. So this is a contradiction from what we heard yesterday. I just want to point that out and be clear that I'm only telling y'all what Dontez Stewart said and nothing more. All right, so the other officer chimes back in. He says, well, again, you're going to be facing significant time. You have the murder charge on you. Your federal case is being adopted. The gun itself can give you 15 years in federal prison. That's the one gun, all right? There's a second gun involved in this case, all right? The one you got arrested with when the cops chased you in the house. That matches the murder you're charged with. Now, I know you already know that. I'm not telling you stuff you don't already know. But in addition to that, okay, there's some additional murders that you're involved in. I know you killed the guy that got your brother. Right, wrong, or indifferent, that's not for me to judge. But I know that MFer shot your brother in the head and made him walk down the street naked. So I could see where you would have some animosity towards that person. And there's also another incident where you got involved in a shootout inside of a trap house on Pratt Street. So all of that piles up on top of one another. Just makes it for an unsurmountable amount of time for you. Technically, you're looking at life in prison in a state. If you get convicted on the one case you're looking at life in prison. So the ultimate goal here today is just to try to figure out if you understand that there's a lot of bad stuff coming your way. And we're trying to And we're trying to say is that there's some wiggle room here, and there's a possibility that if you cooperate in the federal system, everything will be lumped together and you'll be taken out of the state and incarcerated federally. This is kind of telling, but I'm going to move on. It says, for a number of how many years they decide to give you, but eventually there'll be light at the end of the tunnel. You know life in state is life. You know that, okay? I mean that when you're around, nobody's telling you nothing you don't already know. Oh, he says, you've been around. I'm not telling you something that you don't already know. He says, and what I'm trying to say to you is you need to think about yourself when push comes to shove, because it seems as though from what you're telling us, no one is helping you out. Why he is telling the police all of this boggles the mind. It says, what I'm trying to tell you is, all right, that there's some leeway for you to say, I'll accept the responsibility for what your guy said I did, but in return for that, I need some leeway back. And that boils down to how much time you're going to get. But that depends upon your cooperation. I mean, you bear to bring, brother. I don't know what that means. It says you got OBH tatted on your chest, you know? So they're going to be asking you about OBH stuff, the people that are involved in that. I know, listen, nobody wants to be put in that situation. Nobody wants to be put in that position. But the bottom line is you can't worry about anybody else. You got to worry about yourself. If you decide to cooperate, you know a lot. You can help yourself out a lot. You could possibly avoid life in prison if you stay over here. If you stay in the state, I'm not lying to you when I tell you what's coming your way. He knew he was going to rat before he got in this indictment. You have the one homicide charge. I know about the other two. All right. So that's 3 homicides out of what I told y'all. He told me he was up for yesterday out of the 10. Apparently they just keep piling on. He says the biggest thing, like I said for you, I don't want to say it's a simple choice, because there's nothing simple about what you're going to decide. You're going to decide what happens to you for the rest of your life, that the decision you're going to make was going to happen to you for the rest of your life. Okay, there's stuttering and stuff in here, y'all. That's not me. It says, do you want to eventually see some light at the end of the tunnel, or at this point in your life say, fuck it, I don't care what happens to me? That's not a decision any of us is going to make. That's a decision only you can make. And as long as you know what the decision entails, what you have to do to make that decision is what we're trying to make you understand. The other thing too, man, is that it's not too often that you get a prosecutor on your side, and a prosecutor is like in your murder case. They're willing to work together, and they're willing to make this thing work for you. A lot of time we get a guy charged with a homicide, and they're like, F it, he killed somebody, But the fact is, everybody is willing to bring this thing into our federal system. Let you help yourself out on it, and let you get out from under that life in prison, which is a federal murder case, which in a federal murder case is possible. I can tell you specific cases I've seen on my squad where federal murder cases have gotten less than life, like 50, 75 years. Later on it says, it's not like you're going to walk out, to be honest with you, but you'll be my age when you get out, not 90. Somebody says, yeah, like 56. I highly doubt that's possible at this point. I think to get out of what Dontez Stewart says he's facing, he needs a New York crime family. So there you have it. Multiple post-arrest statements made in this case. If you don't understand what's happening here, they took out the statements that they made. So they make a note to say that they made multiple incriminating statements, but they're not letting you know exactly what they said in these documents, just that they exist. So y'all let me know what y'all think about this in the comments. Multiple post-arrest statements made in the AR Ab case. I told y'all this is not uncommon. People make this mistake all of the time. I know in the hood, before you step a pinky toe off of the porch, there's always somebody telling you don't talk to the police. But when people get in a police presence, especially in an interrogation room, in a situation they've never been in before, they often make these kind of mistakes. These suppression statements are made every day. These suppression motions are made in court every day for people all across the United States. So this is not strange. It doesn't mean necessarily that you snitching, but it does mean that you made a very stupid mistake, no matter which way you dice it. If you're talking to the police, you either snitching or making a huge mistake. Stop talking to the police. Let me know what y'all think about this in the comments. Like, comment, subscribe. It's the Crown Prince. Peace. Join the Crown TV community on the Band app and get instant access to the Crown TV calendar, daily news updates, all documents and court paperwork as it is released. This means you will get it here first. New video and live stream alerts and more. And that is all for free on the Band app.